Thanks for joining us today as part of the Akaru community. Our technology workshop today is on Microsoft Excel tips and tricks. Call's going to last about 20 minutes. We're going to try to cover a lot of material, but you can get a copy of the presentation if you just click on download presentation. You can get a copy of the slides to reference back later. If you haven't already done so, go to the What's New section and click on View Presentation. For call clarity, we always set up these calls as a listen only. It's just to cut down on ambient noise. If you need to put the call on hold to take another call, we won't all hear the music. If you have questions, email info@akaru.com, or you can also call 978-692-4200 for help. The mission of our workshop series is to help you get more from the technology you already have and introduce you to new technologies you need to know about. So today we're really going to focus on get more from the technology you have. In most businesses you already have Office installed on your system, which means you have Excel. It's there ready for you to use, and we're going to go through 17 tips and tricks that are the things that kind of among our team we think are really useful. I know there's some beginners on the call, there's some more advanced users. Hopefully there's at least one tip and trick for everyone. Try to get one that you can use. Alright, so we're going to talk about formatting cells, some basic formulas, tables, inserting spreadsheets in the Word, graph, exporting into Quickbooks, a little bit of everything today. So kind of to get started and to get some perspective, with Excel, you're kind of doing two things. One of the things you're doing is you're crunching numbers. You're doing math. You might be working with a lot of numbers, trying to make sense of it all. The other thing you're doing is presenting the data, trying to take all that stuff and have it make sense in terms of how you organize the data, how you present the data. So you're really doing all of this at the same time. So to get started, this is a sample spreadsheet. Very, very simple. Day of the week, looking at a salesperson and the invoice total of what they've sold. So really basic. It's just to show some of ideas and kind of take you through a couple of the tips and tricks. But spreadsheets could be thousands of lines long. If you imagine when you learn the basics, you'll be able to do a lot with the information. Okay, so tip number one, formatting cells. So especially when you're looking at a lot of stuff, one of the things you might want to do is just make your headers stand out. So I have day, salesperson, and invoice. So just like you can do in Microsoft Word or you can do in PowerPoint, you can change the fonts. In this case, I'm going to highlight them, I'm going to select them, and then pick bold. I can change the color, underline, italic, I can change the font size. That really helps with your display of the data and makes it a lot easier to read. Tip number two, formatting cells, different options. You can actually do a lot more than that in terms of just the visual of what, hey, this is going to be bold and in a big font. You can also go in and really drill in and change a lot about what's in the column. So in this case, you know, the names here are just simple text, but if they're numbers, they could be dates, they could be times, percentage. I can change this around. I can also do clock values. If I want to add up, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, I can have that add up as well. Dig around in here, you'll find that you can do a lot. Tip number three, auto-sizing columns. So when you go in and you say, okay, I want my data to stand out, I want my headers to really be clear, so I've made them very big font. You can see now this kind of cuts off. Well, one easy thing to do is just double click in between and it will automatically size the columns. So if you've ever had the case of where you're looking at a big spreadsheet and one column just has number sign, number sign, number sign, that means that it's just not wide enough to present the data. So when you double click on that the in-between spot, you just kind of grab it in the right spot, it will automatically size it. And that's a quick way to visualize your data. In terms of types of data, with tip number four is you're going to highlight this column, and I might have it in accounting format, but I could pick US dollars, euros, you have a lot of different options, and it's really when you start drilling through these, and take this as a starting point, you will see a near infinite ways of displaying and organizing your data. So just in this, on my home tab, I'm just looking under dollar. I have the option of picking different currencies if I'd like. All right, so moving along, now we're going to get to tip number 5, starting with some of the math. So one of the really basic formulas is a summation. And at first it might seem intimidating. This looks like an alien language. Equals, sum, and then parentheses, and this is your range. So if you were to type in here in your formula area over here, equals sum, I can either type in C4 colon C, actually I did C4, I my example up here I say C2, or I can just highlight what I want. As soon as I hit close parentheses over here and return, automatically I'm going to get the total at the bottom. Tip number 6, I can also sum by adding up individual cells. I don't have to add up this whole column. I could do equal sum parentheses, and then I can just randomly click on whichever ones are of interest to me. I might have certain, again, just working with the data and trying to make sense out of it, I might want to see certain things that happen. Maybe some of my bigger invoices, whatever it is, I have the option of clicking on individual cells. Tip number 7, another basic formula that's really useful, is average. And you just type in your formula area is equals average and then the range that you want to average. So now you can kind of visualize, you could have a sum and an average. Really sky's the limit. And again, it's kind of hard to with just a few entries in this really basic sample. You think, okay, well I could add them up with a calculator. If you had 1,000 lines of entries, sitting there with a calculator would be just prohibitively time consuming. So this really gets powerful. So taking it one step further, building on the sum, another thing you could do is called SUMIF. And that means you're going to add a range of numbers based on a certain condition. And this is what the formula looks like, and it is kind of tricky to remember the format, but you can always look it up within Excel. And I always have to look up this one because I never exactly remember it. You're always putting what you're working on inside the parentheses. Okay, so that's equals is telling Excel, hey, this is a formula. SUMIF is telling what the operator is. And then this area, A2 to A12, is going to be the range you want to evaluate. And this is going to make more sense on the next slide when I actually show it. This is a criteria that you want to meet. Remember, I had days of the week, salesperson, and this is the range of numbers you want to add up, so the range to sum. Okay, so to look at that now, I have SUMIF. Okay, I'm evaluating A2 to A14, so that's the first part is telling me. The value that I'm looking for is Monday. I want to find out everything that happened on Monday. So and this is the whole range I'm evaluating. So in this particular case, I actually had them in order. But if, again, 1,000 line items with random days of the week, I'm going to pull out everything that says Monday by using this formula. Alternatively, I could evaluate my B column to meet the criteria of I want to know everything Sally did, so I want to get her sum. So now I'm looking at everything in the B column, I'm picking up everything that says Sally, and I'm summing across that range. More formulas. If you go to the Formula tab in Excel and just kind of explore around, here's some really basic ones. Sum and average we talked about, min and max. There are a ton of formulas in here. So if you're thinking about, what do you want to track in your business? You have a business dashboard you want to track. Take some time, just schedule 30 minutes on your calendar one day to just go through Excel, and you will be absolutely amazed at what is available to you right in your system right now. You don't have to invest in a really fancy software package. You can do a lot with Excel, and you already have it on your system. Tip number 10, format as a table. This kind of opens up a whole new way of displaying data and working with data. So again, I'm starting with my really basic spreadsheet. I'm going to click on the Format as Table button. Okay, and now all of a sudden I have all these options. So I can pick different colors, different ways of displaying it. You can see this is shaded every other line and the blue. Lots of different ways. So if you've ever seen a really slick presentation, it looks like, wow, they must have had a graphic artist working with them to present this data. It's actually all built into Excel. Literally press a button. You like red, you like green, pick any button you want, and you can have fabulous looking presentations. So if I go ahead and do that, I'm going to highlight what I want to turn into a table. This will pop up automatically. You don't actually have to fill in anything. This is basically just telling me what the range is, but don't worry, you don't have to type anything in there. It's just showing you what, kind of in math speak, what you've selected, and you hit OK. Okay, and now you can see that same spreadsheet looks totally different. You can see I've got this kind of odd even on the shades, which makes it easy to read. Again, if you have really dense font and it's 1,000 lines long, it makes it easier to kind of go line by line, and you might have 30 columns across here. The other thing you'll notice is these little pull down arrows. Okay, and I'm going to show you in the next slide what they do. Okay, I can now go in and start manipulating this table by going in. I can sort. I can also pick, I might, again, on a 1,000-line spreadsheet with all the names of all my sales reps, I might want to go in and say, you know what, I don't want to select all, I just want to see what Jerry did. And I'm going to make a display and a graph of just what Jerry did. I don't have to go through line item by line item and delete each row to just wind up with Jerry's chart. I can just pick and choose right here from the selections, which is really powerful. I also have the sort availability in there, so I could sort. I might want to sort by day of the week. I might want to sort by person. You can very quickly manipulate this and get it to display the way you like. And this is the filtering that I talked about. Hey, I want to see everything that Hazel did. And then you can shut that. If you just want to go back to a regular spreadsheet, you can turn off the sort and turn off the formatting. And this just shows you where you can do some of that. Okay, turning off formatting, turning off filtering. And this is the kind of thing I'd say build a real basic spreadsheet, like the one I showed, and just start going through Excel. Because investing a little bit of time, a half hour, maybe 45 minutes, next time you need to do a presentation or present a proposal or whatever it is that you need, maybe to your donors, your shareholders, board meeting, whatever it is, you can get really great looking data, and it really helps communicate your points when you can organize your data like that. Tip number 12 is how to insert a spreadsheet into Word. You've all seen tables in Word. Okay, this is a little different. In this case, I'm giving you an example from Excel 2010, but if I go to Insert and I insert an object, I can actually insert a full Excel file into Word. Now, when you first see it show up, it's going to look like, it looks like a table. It's actually not a table. This is a fully functional Excel spreadsheet that's embedded in Microsoft Word. So I can go in and start doing all my different sorts and stuff. This is great if you're maybe developing a template for doing quotes for customers, or if you're doing a big report. Now I can go and say, oh, well, wait a second, it doesn't really make sense. I want to display this as from highest to lowest invoice amount, or however I want to do it in my sales report. I can now work with a fully functional Excel spreadsheet right inside my Word document. Another great thing you can do, tip number 13, is creating graphs. So if I just highlight an area, I want to know with my various salespeople, what are their invoices for their sales? How are they doing? So I just highlight this area, basically hit Shift and cover whatever area I want, and then I can pick all different kinds of charts. Again, you will have great professional-looking graphics literally with a touch of the button. So I'll hit a column graph with that, and this is how it displays. So now I have my invoice amount on this side, my salespeople, and you can really make a great looking presentation. I can go in and I can change the color. I have a lot of different options of how I want to display this. Another neat tip, very simple, but this on the bottom right hand corner of Excel, actually any Word program, you can go in and just slide the slider back and forth to zoom in and zoom out. So you don't have to go in and think, oh, do I need to view this at 88% or 84%? Just slide in and slide out. So you might, on a very dense spreadsheet, this lets you really drill in and look at the data. And you can do that on any PowerPoint, any other Word program as well. Tip number 15, conditional programming, conditional formatting. So you can highlight an area that you want to evaluate. And I want to say, in this column, my invoice values, I really want to visualize this data in a different way. I want to get green fill with dark green text for everything that's over $10,000. Okay, so if I go to the next slide, now my chart will automatically do this. Again, with this many entries, you say, oh, okay, I could go in and format each one. But imagine 1,000 line items. I want everything to jump out at me that's above a certain value. Very powerful. Tip number 16, freeze panes. And what this is, if you scroll down on a big spreadsheet, when you're on line 645 and your header's long gone, this is a way of preserving that. You basically just click in the corner of where you want to freeze your panes. And this means that I can scroll down, but this first line is always going to stay there. So if I'm on line 657 here, this, for example, I would still see, oh, salesperson, day, salesperson, invoice. I'd still see my header. Also, if I had 50 columns along here and I had to scroll to column 49, by making this freeze pane, I'd be able to see the day of the week as well. So that's another thing. Again, working with big spreadsheets, very, very useful. So under the view and freeze panes, that's how you get to that. And then tip number 17, one of my favorites, is that you can basically extract any report in QuickBooks into Excel. So you just find, if you're on a report, you can hit export and just create a new workbook. You can give it a name and hit export, and now you can think any report that you have in QuickBooks, if you have to do a financial report, board meeting, whatever, to your investors, whatever you need to do, or your sales meeting, you can take your information from QuickBooks, get it into Excel, and now you can display it in all these different ways. So if you remember all that formatting that we did, or the conditional formatting, you can really make your data stand out. Display it in different ways, move it around, manipulate it, and get it to the presentation that you want. Very, very powerful. That's my own favorite tip and trick with Excel. All right, so next steps, choose some data that's useful for running your business, develop a spreadsheet, and just start testing. See which ones of these work for you. Maybe you have a weekly sales meeting. This would be great. Get everybody a little more focused on the numbers. Create a business dashboard, whatever it is. But I always recommend with something like this, if you're not really comfortable using Excel, make a calendar entry in your Outlook calendar and say, Tuesday at 2:30, I'm spending 30 minutes in Excel, and then just try to do some of these tips and tricks. And you'll see, as soon as you give it a try, you'll get the hang of it, and they're very powerful. Okay, and with that, any more questions, please email us anytime at info@ecar.com or call us at 978-692-4200. We love to hear from you. Also, if you have a question, that means other folks have questions, so we like to get those covered in our blog and in our seminars. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us today. Please check us out on Twitter. We post news that's relevant for small business technology. Also, we have a Facebook update. Basically, however you like to get updates, we're there online, so please check it out. And with that, we're at the end of our 20-minute time slot. I know people need to get back to work, so thank you very much for joining us, and please join us for our next training session. Thank you very much.